ever feel like, just going through the motions, like there's this deeper peace and joy you're missing out on?
Hmm.
I know I do. That's why I'm so fascinated by this book,
Hmm.
Metaphysical Meditations by Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yeah.
Not just some airy-fairy spiritual text,
Yeah.
It's a practical guide
Uh-huh.
to actually experiencing that inner peace.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because Yogananda really stresses the practical application of these teachings.
Right.
He doesn't just talk about lofty concepts.
Yeah.
He gives you very specific techniques to quiet the mind,
Okay.
overcome negativity,
Mm-hmm.
and connect with what he calls divine joy.
Divine joy. Okay, I'll admit, some days just finding my keys feels like a spiritual victory.
Right.
But tell me more about this idea.
Well, Yogananda believes that divine joy is our birthright,
Okay.
this inherent state of bliss that's always within us.
Mm-hmm.
But we've covered it up with layers of stress,
Yeah.
worry, and attachment to the material world.
So it's not about magically becoming happy all the time.
Right.
It's about uncovering something that's already there.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
And one of the key ways he says we do that is by understanding the power of our own thoughts.
Okay.
He doesn't just mean positive thinking, though.
Yeah, I've tried those good vibes only mantras.
Yeah.
And they only work for so long.
Right. Yogananda goes deeper.
Okay.
He says our thoughts actually shape our reality.
Whoa.
Think about how often you repeat negative thoughts in your head.
Mm.
I'm not good enough. I'll never achieve that, and so on.
Yeah.
Those thoughts create a kind of energy that attracts more negativity.
Okay. That's a little freaky, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we break out of that cycle?
That's where affirmations come in.
Okay.
Yogananda provides these potent statements that, when repeated consistently, can actually reprogram our minds.
Really?
One example that really resonated with me is, I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light.
Wow, just hearing those words makes me feel a little lighter.
Mm.
But I have to be honest, sometimes just sitting down to meditate feels impossible, let alone repeating affirmations.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's another key point.
Yeah.
This is a practice.
Okay.
You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, right?
Right.
Well, experiencing divine joy is like a spiritual marathon.
Okay.
It takes effort, dedication, and the right kind of training.
So metaphysical meditations is like our training manual.
Precisely. And meditation is one of the key exercises in this training.
Okay.
Yogananda outlines various techniques, breathing exercises, focusing on the inner light, chanting.
Wait, focusing on the inner light? What does that even mean?
It's like when you close your eyes facing the sun, you sense that warmth and presence even through closed eyelids.
Right.
Yogananda is saying there's a similar light within us, and focusing on it connects us to a deeper reality.
Okay. I'm intrigued, but does he say why meditation is so important?
He believes it's the most direct path to experiencing God, to achieve a state of pure awareness where the ego dissolves and the soul experiences unity with the divine.
That sounds intense, but also a little scary.
Hmm.
What about all the stuff in my life I need to deal with?
Yeah.
The bills, the deadlines, the, general chaos.
This is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
Yogananda doesn't advocate escaping from the world.
Mm-hmm.
He acknowledges life can be challenging, but he says our suffering often stems from being too attached to the temporary things in life.
So like being obsessed with my to-do list instead of the bigger picture.
Yes. He's not saying to renounce all your possessions and live in caves.
Right.
It's more about shifting your perspective,
Okay.
seeing beyond the temporary ups and downs to align yourself with eternal truth.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, my inbox is overflowing, but the sun is still rising and setting every day. The universe is still doing its thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to help us tap into that perspective, Yogananda offers this beautiful meditation where you surrender your mental burdens and allow divine love and wisdom to flow through you.
Okay.
He writes, I relax and cast aside all mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom.
I can already feel the tension leaving my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're letting go of all our worries, does that mean we just give up on trying to make things better?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
He doesn't mean becoming passive.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing there's a bigger force at play,
Mm-hmm.
and by aligning ourselves with it, we tap into a power greater than ourselves.
Okay.
Think of it like this. If you're trying to row a boat upstream, you're fighting against the current.
Right.
But if you surrender to the flow of the river,
Yeah.
You can be carried effortlessly towards your destination.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's less about giving up
Yeah.
and more about working with the universe instead of against it.
Exactly. And that sense of working with something greater is where Yogananda's concept of unity comes in.
Okay.
He doesn't see religion as this dividing force.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he believes all religions ultimately lead to the same divine realization.
That's a really refreshing perspective, especially in today's world.
Right.
So he's saying it doesn't matter if you're Christian, Buddhist, Hindu. We're all ultimately seeking the same truth.
Precisely. He acknowledges figures like Jesus, Krishna, Buddha
Okay.
as manifestations of the same divine consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that personal experience of the divine not getting hung up on dogma or specific rituals.
So metaphysical meditations is less about converting you to a specific belief system and more about helping you connect with that deeper truth within yourself.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so relevant, even for someone like you who says they struggle to find their keys in the morning.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that beneath the everyday chaos,
Right.
there's this incredible potential for peace, joy, and connection.
That's awesome. I was thinking about what you said earlier about Yogananda viewing all religions as ultimately leading to the same divine realization. It makes me wonder, how does he see that applying to people's everyday lives, their relationships with others?
That's a great question, and something that really stood out to me as well.
Mm.
Because if you truly believe that we're all connected to this same divine source,
Right.
it has to impact how you interact with the world.
Right. Like, I'm imagining fewer arguments on Twitter.
Right.
Maybe a little more patience in rush hour traffic.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the divinity in everyone,
Yeah.
even those who hold different beliefs or opinions.
Mm.
Yogananda emphasizes the importance of seeing beyond the superficial differences that divide us
Right.
and recognizing the shared humanity, the shared spark of the divine that
Yeah.
connects us all.
That makes me think of that quote, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle."
Yeah.
It takes on a whole new meaning if you believe we're all essentially expressions of the same divine energy.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating compassion and understanding, even for those who might challenge us. It's about remembering that we're all on this journey together, navigating the ups and downs of life,
Yeah.
and ultimately striving for the same thing, to experience love,
Yeah.
joy, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
And that brings us back to that idea of divine love.
Right.
You've talked about it a bit,
Yeah.
but I'm still a little fuzzy on what exactly Yogananda means by that.
Okay.
Like romantic love, family love?
It's a different kind of love altogether.
Okay.
He describes it as this all-encompassing, unconditional love
Mm.
that transcends the boundaries of our human relationships.
Yeah.
It's the love that the divine has for each and every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the love that we, through meditation and spiritual practice, can cultivate for ourselves and for all beings.
So it's more about a state of being
Yep.
than a feeling directed at a specific person.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he contrasts that with the fleeting pleasures of the material world,
Yeah.
the kind of happiness that comes from external things.
Right.
Divine joy, he says, is lasting.
Yeah.
It's inherent within us, and it's not dependent on outside circumstances.
I'm starting to understand why metaphysical meditations is so appealing to people.
Mm.
It's offering something that we all crave.
Yeah.
That deep sense of peace and fulfillment that doesn't fade when the going gets tough.
Yes. And he emphasizes that this state of divine love and joy isn't something we have to wait for in the afterlife.
Yeah.
It's attainable here and now
Right.
through the practices outlined in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's about tapping into that inner reservoir of peace and bliss that is our birthright.
As we're talking about this, I keep thinking about those who might be skeptical.
Right.
Someone might be listening and thinking, this all sounds great, but what evidence is there?
Yeah.
How do I know any of this is real? What would you say to them?
That's a completely valid question.
Yeah.
And Yogananda actually addresses this head on.
Okay.
He doesn't ask you to blindly believe anything.
Mm-hmm.
He encourages you to experience these truths for yourself.
Yep.
He's saying, here are the tools, the techniques, the practices. Try them out.
Mm-hmm.
Meditate, use the affirmations, and see what happens.
So it's less about faith and more about direct personal experience.
Exactly. He believes that true knowledge comes from direct experience,
Okay.
from that inner knowing that transcends intellectual understanding.
Okay.
It's like learning to ride a bike.
Right.
Someone can tell you all about balance and pedaling,
Mm-hmm.
but until you actually get on the bike and feel it for yourself,
Yeah.
you don't truly know what it's like.
That's a great analogy. So Metaphysical Meditations is like giving someone the bike
Yeah.
and saying, here you go now, take it for a spin and see how it feels.
Precisely. And he assures us that the more we engage in these practices, the more we experience the truth of these teachings for ourselves.
Okay.
It's about that personal journey of discovery and awakening.
I think that's what makes this book so empowering.
Yeah.
It's not about following someone else's dogma. It's about uncovering your own inner truth, your own connection to the divine.
Yes.
Yes.
And Yogananda makes it clear that this journey isn't always easy.
Right.
There will be challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt.
Yeah.
But he encourages us to persevere,
Okay.
to keep practicing, and to trust the process.
You know, earlier I mentioned feeling skeptical,
Mm.
but honestly, another part of me feels this resistance
Yeah.
to the whole idea of surrendering my worries and trusting in some divine plan.
Okay.
It feels a little passive, like I'm giving up control.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
We live in a culture that values self-reliance, taking charge, making things happen.
Right.
So the idea of surrendering can feel counterintuitive, even a bit scary.
Exactly. Like, what if the divine plan involves me missing a deadline or something? Should I just shrug and say, oh, well, it's all part of the cosmic tapestry?
He's not saying to become irresponsible or disengaged from life.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing that we're not in control of everything,
Right.
that there are forces greater than ourselves at play. And sometimes the best course of action is to surrender our limited understanding,
Okay.
to let go of the need to control, and to trust that there's a wisdom and intelligence guiding us,
Right.
even when we can't see it.
So it's less about giving up
Right.
and more about aligning ourselves with greater power.
Exactly.
Almost like becoming a channel for that divine energy to flow through us.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're not separate from the divine,
Right. Right.
but rather expressions of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we surrender our ego's need to control, we open ourselves up to that flow of wisdom, love, and power.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. The power of our thoughts, the practice of meditation, the concept of a unity,
Yeah.
the idea of surrendering to the divine flow. It's all interconnected.
It is. And Metaphysical Meditations provides us with a framework, a set of practices
Okay.
to help us integrate these concepts into our lives.
Right.
It's about cultivating a new way of being, a new way of seeing ourselves and the world around us.
You know, when we started this deep dive, I had no idea how much there was to unpack.
Right.
It's like we've gone from a simple self-help book to this vast, interconnected web of spiritual insights.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Wow.
But I think we've touched on some of the key themes that make Metaphysical Meditations such a powerful and enduring work.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about, that's for sure. But before we get too lost in the cosmic web,
Yeah.
maybe we should take a moment to ground ourselves and see what specific takeaways our listeners can apply to their own lives.
Wow.
What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
After all, Metaphysical Meditations isn't just about abstract concepts. It's about practical application.
Mm-hmm.
It's about transforming our lives one thought, one breath, one moment at a time.
As we've been exploring metaphysical meditations, I've been struck by how much emphasis Yogananda puts on personal experience.
Right.
It's not about blind faith or dogma. It's about actively engaging with these practices and seeing what happens.
Feels very empowering.
That's such a key point. He's not asking us to simply believe him.
Right.
He's inviting us to become our own spiritual scientists,
Okay.
experimenting with these techniques and observing the results in our own lives.
So it's about taking ownership of our spiritual journey,
Exactly.
not just passively following someone else's teachings.
He's giving us the tools, the map, the guidance, but ultimately it's up to each of us to take the journey, to put in the effort, and to discover those truths for ourselves.
And I think that's where the affirmations come in.
Right.
We've talked about them throughout this deep dive,
Yeah.
but I'm curious, how do they actually work?
Okay.
Do we just repeat them mindlessly, or is there something more to it?
It's not just about rote repetition.
Okay.
Yogananda stresses the importance of feeling the truth, of the affirmation, of imbuing it with your intention and energy.
Okay.
Think of it like planting a seed.
Okay.
You don't just scatter the seed on the ground and hope for the best.
You prepare the soil, you nurture it, you give it the right conditions to grow.
So repeating the affirmation is like planting the seed.
Uh-huh.
But our intention and focus are what nurture it and help it take root in our subconscious.
Exactly. And just like a seed needs time and consistent care to blossom,
Mm-hmm.
these affirmations need to be practiced regularly with feeling and conviction
Right.
to really take hold and transform our thinking.
Earlier, you mentioned one that really resonated with you.
Hmm?
Divine joy is my constant companion.
Yeah.
What is it about that specific affirmation
I
that you
just
find so powerful?
Well, I think for many of us, joy can feel elusive,
Mm-hmm.
like something we have to chase after or earn.
Yeah.
But this affirmation flips that on its head.
Okay.
It's declaring that joy is already present.
Right.
It's always with us. It's our constant companion.
It's like we're reclaiming our inherent right to experience joy, not as something conditional or fleeting, but as a fundamental aspect of our being.
Yes. And by repeating this affirmation, we're essentially retraining our minds to recognize that joy,
Mhm.
to tune into it, and to allow it to flow more freely in our lives.
That's so beautiful. It makes me wonder, are there any affirmations that you've found particularly helpful in your own life?
There's one I often turn to when I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious. I relax and cast aside all mental burdens,
Mhm.
allowing God to express through me his perfect love, peace, and wisdom.
It's like you're surrendering the weight of the world and inviting in a sense of peace and guidance from something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be incredibly comforting, especially in challenging times.
It is. And it reminds me that I don't have to carry everything on my own shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a power greater than myself that I can tap into a source of strength and wisdom that is always available.
It sounds like Yogananda is offering us a path not just to personal transformation, but also to a deeper connection with something much vaster than ourselves. He's not just teaching us how to feel better. He's inviting us to experience a profound shift in our understanding of who we are and where we fit into the universe.
That's exactly it. And that shift in perspective can be truly liberating.
Yeah.
It can free us from the limitations of our ego, from the fear and anxiety that come with feeling isolated and alone.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to tap into a sense of belonging, of interconnectedness, of knowing that we are part of something much grander and more meaningful than our individual lives.
So metaphysical meditations isn't just a guide to personal growth. It's a portal to a whole new way of experiencing reality.
It is. And it's a journey that's available to anyone who's willing to take that first step to open their minds and hearts to the possibilities and to embark on that adventure of self-discovery and spiritual awakening.
Well, I don't know about you, but after this deep dive, I'm feeling inspired to dust off my meditation cushion and give some of these techniques a try.
As am I. And I encourage our listeners to do the same. Pick up a copy of Metaphysical Meditations. Explore the practices that resonate with you and see what unfolds. You might be surprised by what you discover.
And remember, even if you're feeling skeptical, even if you're not sure if you believe any of this, approach it with a sense of curiosity, with an open mind and heart. You might just find that the truth is more profound and more beautiful than you ever imagined.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll bring our deep dive into Metaphysical Meditations to a close. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration and that it sparked a new sense of wonder and possibility in your own journey.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.